Gaël Monfils speaks out on racism in tennis. I feel Coco Gauff's pain. We share the same skin. The crowd at Roland Garros was still buzzing that evening. The red, clay illuminated by the soft golden hue of a Parisian sunset. But amid the cheers and camera flashes, there was an unmistakable heaviness in the air. It wasn't about the match anymore. It was about something far deeper, something that went beyond tennis, something that had been simmering for generations. Standing before the press, his trademark grin replaced by a rare Semite. Gaël Monfils took a deep breath. I feel Coco Gauff's pain. He began, his voice calm but firm, because we share the same skin. And sometimes that skin feels heavier than a tennis racket. Those words would echo across the tennis world like a thunderclap, a moment of truth. For years, Gaël Monfils has been embodiment of joy on the court, the high-flying dives, the cheeky smiles, the acrobatic returns that make crowds rise to their feet. He was the entertainer, the showman, the man who brought flair to a game often accused of being too serious. Yet behind the charisma lay few ever truly heard. This was not the Gaël Monfils who danced after winning a point. This was a man confronting an uncomfortable truth, the persistent undercurrent of racism in a sport that loves its champions but sometimes forgets their humanity. Coco Gauff's recent emotional outburst following a racially insensitive remark from a fellow player had reignited the discussion, and Monfils, now in the twilight of his career, felt compelled to speak. I've been there, he said softly. Not just once, not just twice. When you walk into a locker room and feel eyes on you, not for your forehand, but for your color, it leaves a mark. You learn to smile through it. You learn to play harder, but it never really goes away. A legacy of resilience. Monfils was only 18 when he first burst onto the ADP Tour. With his towering frame, lightning, speed, and childlike charisma, he was seen as tennis's next great entertainer. Yet even then whispers followed him about his athleticism, his natural talent, as if his artistry and intelligence were somehow lesser. It's subtle, Monfils explained in a later interview. People call you explosive, wild, instinctive, but they never say strategic or tactical. You start to realize they see you as a body, not a mind. It's the same coded language that players like Serena and Venus Williams endured in their early years, in which Coco Gauff, despite being born into a supposedly more progressive era, still faces. Gauff's recent tears at the post-match press conference after being asked if she overreacted to a racial comment from an opponent became a viral moment. But for Monfils, it was not just a headline. It was deja vu. When Coco cried, he said, I saw my younger self. The same confusion, the same question. Why can't they just see me as a player? We share the same skin. Manice's phrase, we share the same skin, was not just poetic. It was a declaration of kinship that transcended age, gender, and geography. In Coco, he saw not only a prodigy, but a mirror, a continuation of story that began long before either of them picked up a racket. For black athletes in tennis, the court has always been both sanctuary and battleground. Althea Gibson broke barriers in 1950s, Arthur Ashe in the 1970s, and the Williams sisters in the 1990s. Each carried a torch lit by those who came before, and a burden that often went unseen. When I started, Mondes recalled there were many faces that looked like mine in the locker room. You learn to adapt, to blend in, but the truth is you never fully do. He paused. Coco's strength is her voice. Mine was my silence. We're different generations, but the pain, that's the same. The unseen pressure for young players of color. The pressure is twofold, to perform and to represent. Every victory becomes a statement. Every mistake a potential. Stereotype confirmed. Coco Gauff has spoken openly about this dual burden. Sometimes, she said in a recent interview, I feel like I'm not just playing for myself, but for every little black girl who's told she doesn't belong. In tennis, it's empowering, but it's also exhausting. Monfils nodded when asked about her words. Exactly, he said. When you step onto the court, you're not just an athlete, you're a symbol, and symbols don't get to rest. He paused for a long moment, his usually energetic tone subdued. But I want Coco to know this. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to cry. That doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. A voice beyond the baseline. In recent years, tennis has seen a quiet revolution. Naomi Osaka's advocacy for mental health, Frances Tafo's community work, and now Gauff's fearless stand against racism have begun reshaping what it means to be an athlete in sport. Manf, who once referred to let the racket do the talking, now sees a value in speaking up. We can't change what we don't name, he said. And racism in tennis, it still exists not just in the stands, but in the system. He cited subtle examples: underrepresentation in coaching, disparities in sponsorship deals, the lack of black officials in major tournaments. When the people making decisions don't look like you, it changes how you're seen, he said, and that's what hurts the most. His wife, Ukrainian player Elena Svitolina, has been one of his strongest supporters. Together, they've spoken about unity and cultural understanding, often using their platform to promote inclusivity. The way of a smile, perhaps what makes Gaël Monfils' words so piercing, is their contrast with his persona. For years, he's been a smile of tennis, the player who made fans laugh, who danced with the crowd, who seemed invincible in his joy. But joy, he says, can also be armor. I learned to smile through pain, he confessed, because when you're smiling, people think you're okay. They don't see the battles you fight off court. But Coco, you remind me that it's okay to take the armor off sometimes. He paused again, eyes glistening, because we share the same skin, and sometimes it just needs a breathe. The future Monfils dreams of, when asked what he hopes tennis will look like in 10 years. Monfils didn't hesitate. I hope it looks like the world, he said. Different colors, different voices, different dreams, all on the same court. No labels, just players. He smiled in a familiar, infectious grin returning. And I hope Coco's still winning everything. He chuckled. Maybe my daughter will be watching her play and she'll see someone who looks like her holding the trophy. That's the world I want. Epilogue beyond the court. A week after his emotional press conference, Manf posted a photo on Instagram, an image of his younger self, smiling on a cracked court in Paris, holding a worn-out racket. The caption read, "They said tennis wasn't for kids. Like me, I played anyway. They said we'd never belong. We do now. Keep shining. Coco, keep fighting. Our skin is not our weakness. It's our story." The post gathered millions of likes. And Coco Gauff replied with a single emoji, black heart. In that moment, 2 generations of black excellence, connected by history, hurt, and hope, stood united in something greater than the game. Because sometimes the most powerful serves in tennis aren't made with racket, they're made with truth. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, and share.